What's going on, everybody? James Nutter here for another episode of A Life Well Lived, a physician's guide to wealth, where we help you take control of your money so you can live your most meaningful life. And thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. Today is going to be very, very hyper focused. Transition season is upon us, typically the summertime, as you all know very, very well. You're finishing training right about now, and a lot are transitioning either to a fellowship or attending hood. So today I want to talk about 4 critical habits to master to transition to attending hood with confidence. So if this doesn't apply to you, it still will be very relevant to you in your life and lifestyle if you're already in attending. And for anybody else who's listening, if you know an attending who might be a little nervous about making the jump right now, but also very excited, and maybe they're in that gap month in July where they make no money and they barely have any savings and they're feeling overwhelmed, just spread the love, pass this their way. And I think it might help them to feel more confident with their money. And I just want to share a really quick story from one of our clients, Colin and Amanda Saya. And they just share, as a physician, we spend a large portion of our lives learning about medicine, but unfortunately, we did not receive a lot of financial education. I have met several older physicians that are still working because I did not plan correctly. The earlier, the better. This client joined I Am Wealth directly out of residency. I'm not saying you need to do this, but I just want to make a note. The earlier, the better. We have such a solid plan that several of my colleagues do not have. And this has allowed us to live our life in a meaningful and sustainable way. Our financial outlook on life has completely changed. So if you're with me right now, I know it can feel overwhelming and intimidating, especially if you're going to be a new attending and you haven't even got your first paycheck yet, to say, how can I even build a financial plan? How can I know what to do with my money when I don't even know what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like? So there is no time like the present. And I just want to say, some of our most successful clients started with us either while they were in training, their first year as an attending, or a lot of them took the risk and joined like in that gap month between fellowship or residency and attending hood, maybe in that month of July. And they are so, yes, it's risky, right? You're kind of like, you have to spend money you don't have. You have to make a plan when you probably just want to like enjoy a month off. But it can really accelerate your future. And that's what I'll do for you today and in this podcast is just hopefully put you in a place where you can transition to attending hood with confidence and feel fully confident when you step into attending hood, and just focus on being the best physician you can possibly be, the best friend you can be, the best spouse, partner, whatever it is, so you don't have to worry about and feel overwhelmed about what are you going to do when those paychecks start hitting your bank account. So there's going to be 4 steps that we're going to walk through today. And also, too, I'm doing a series throughout the course of the summer of everything we do for a client in the first 120 days working with us. So I would encourage you as well, after you listen to this, make sure you follow that entire series from start to finish, because that'll just go way more in depth with everything I'm talking about too. And once again, if you're not a transitioning physician this summer, I think you're still going to get a lot out of this. And or please, spread the love, spread the wealth, pass it along. So first and foremost, step 1 is just creating the time and space for both you and your loved ones to make a plan. So if it's just you, like carve out, schedule it on your calendar in advance, make it a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. If you have a spouse, partner, other like team members that you want to enroll with you, kids, whoever, schedule a time right away. Pause this right now, put it on your calendar ASAP for probably like maybe it could be a couple different, like maybe like 4 or 5 little micro 30-minute sessions, could be 2 90-minute sessions, could be 3 or 4 60-minute sessions. Just schedule it now in the next couple of weeks. So create that time and space. And I just want to debunk a few common myths that we see here with people that are, suffering financial symptoms, right? 3 of every 4 Americans say money is their number 1 household stress. So I've gone through it. I'm sure you've gone through it. Everybody you know has gone through it. My parents have gone through it. Like everybody's gone through it, right? So a few myths that we commonly want to debunk is a lot of people think, okay, if we make more money, it's going to lessen the pain financially, especially for a lot of new attendings making the jump. And typically what we've learned is that more money only intensifies communication barriers that exist between partner and spouse and partners. And or if it's just you, yes, it can help, but it also can create paralysis because the digits are larger and there can feel some overwhelm of making mistakes, and you don't want to make mistakes. So Maybe savings just builds and stacks and stacks and stacks, but then you don't know what to do with it. We see this all the time. Number two is that if you spend less money, it'll lessen the pain. So again, in these situations, people find themselves burnt out very quickly when they freeze any and all discretionary spending money to improve their financial situation. Kind of that live like a resident mindset. I already sacrificed my 20s, majority of my 20s, and all my friends were out having fun. Why would I continue to live like a resident into my 30s and sacrifice that? So we typically see that that's a path to burnout. And then step three, very, very common, is let's just ignore money altogether to lessen the pain. And we've all been there and had moments when we think it does more harm than good to talk about money, just sweep it under the rug, right? But we only fail when we give up. And moving forward and continuing to carve out the time and space instead of just simply ignoring it, no different than a patient of yours who was experiencing symptoms and they were too scared to do anything about it. So they swept it under the rug. And then the symptoms got worse, metastasized, and something bad happened to the patient, right? And just keep in mind that TD Ameritrade reported that 41% of those we look up to are Gen Xers. 41% were divorced, and along with that, 29% of boomers got divorces. And they state that the reason their marriages ended was due to financial disagreements. So keep all of this in mind. I'd really strongly encourage you to carve out that time and space. So how to do this? Schedule it in and keep it out of everything else. It's a non-negotiable appointment, as if your life depended on it, as if you were going to see the doctor that had the cure and you're not going to miss that meeting, right? So have that on your calendar. So it's almost like a family board meeting. Put the most important topics in a designated time and place, which I'll talk about today. Second, along in this, like scheduling and keeping it out, don't let it clutter your daily life. Keep it on a shelf unless it's an emergency. So a lot of times, it's frustrating for everybody. Like money conversations can come up in passing, right? They can come up at 9 a.m. They can come up when your head hits the pillow at night. So I'd encourage everybody to schedule it and keep it out of day-to-day conversations, unless it's little minor things in passing. But for really important topics, I would encourage everybody to schedule it, put it on the calendar. Plan it for days and times when your cup is already full. Talking about money is not a cup filling activity, right? And I do this for a living. For some people, it is, me. But with different dynamics involved, it typically requires energy between partners to talk about money. And once again, if it's just you, even having this with yourself can be draining, right? So plan it for days when your cup is already full. Build a structure that's realistic for you and your family life. Do not overcommit and underdeliver. This can cause more pain and strife. Stay flexible, be consistent and intentional, but don't force it. If your partner had a brutally exhausting day or you had a brutally exhausting day, just reschedule the meeting, fill your cup, go do something that brings you joy. It's summertime. Get outside, get away. If you had it scheduled for 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night and you're both drained and likely to argue, step away. Or if it's going to burn you out doing it on your own, like step away, reschedule it. And just a couple of self-assessment questions for you if you're here with me right now taking notes is just, do my partner and I regularly schedule time to talk about money and key decisions outside of just having things happen in passing? And or do I schedule time on my own calendar if I don't have a partner or spouse to talk about money? And we'd recommend, between the two of you, at least like a micro huddle one time a month, 30 to 60 minutes, and then macro huddles every once a quarter. And these could be, 2 90-minute sessions, whatever it might be. So moving on now to some ground rules in having these conversations or doing this with yourself. First off, I always like to use the acronym HALT. So avoid talking about money when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Use humility in all of your conversations. Once again, more applicable to spouse and partner, but also use humility with yourself. If Don't beat yourself up for being where you are currently right now. All you can do is change where you are in the present and move forward. So don't beat yourself up for the past. If there is a partner or spouse, just take turns. Don't interrupt each other. Be patient, bite your tongue, listen more, seek more to understand the other person than to be understood by the person. And then make team decisions. So look for opportunities to meet each other. Sometimes you're going to have to meet your spouse or partner where they are and sacrifice your own opinions and what you want to accomplish and vice versa. And sometimes the two, you're going to have to meet in the middle. So it doesn't always have to be in the middle. It can be a meeting that's entirely something that your spouse or partner wanted to talk about. It can be entirely on your spouse or on your side of it, or somewhere in the middle. And then just give each other permission to bring the decisions back to the forefront in future meetings. You don't need to make all crucial decisions today. And then reevaluate, readjust, and correct course. So you can, in the subsequent meeting a month later, like, how did that decision work? How did it feel? How did we do the last quarter? How much did we save the last quarter? How much progress have we made towards our goals the last quarter? Like, how do we feel about that decision? So, of all these different ground rules I just covered, just ask yourself, do my partner and I have a set of ground rules for financial conversations? If you don't have a spouse or partner, do I have a set of ground rules for myself for financial conversations? And then what ground rules make the most sense for us? You don't need to be anybody's disciple and follow everything that I'm saying, right? Figure out what works best for you, your different personality styles, everything. So the second step of the 4 is build your life plan first. And so many of us do this in reverse, especially in good old hardworking America, where we're trained in K through 12 to just put our heads down, go to work, have all the answers. And then we're told, go to a university and get a job. And then you wanted to follow your dreams as a physician. So you study for the MCAT, and then you go to med school, and then you go to training for 3 to 7 years, maybe 8, maybe longer. And then all of a sudden you come up and you're, in your mid 30s, and you're trying to figure out, okay, like, what do I value in life? I've worked 100-hour weeks for the last 4 to 8 years, maybe longer than that. And I don't even know, like, what my life is, what hobbies I like, things outside of medicine. And, trust me, my business partner, Jeff, and I ran into this as being entrepreneurs as well. So one way to think about this, I love the quote from the great philosopher Will Smith, is money and success don't change people. They merely amplify what is already there. So instead of building your work plan and trying to squeeze your life in around it, build your life plan first and make your work accommodate the ideal lifestyle that you want to live for yourself. And this just starts with asking yourself questions, tough questions between you and your spouse. This could be an entire meeting between the two of you about what does your ideal lifestyle look like? And I'll get a link down below with these questions in it, so you guys can have them right in front of you instead of me just reading them all to you right now. But questions about, like, what is, when we're like 80 years old reflecting on life, what does success mean like, or look like to us? What does it mean to us as a family? Not just financially, not material items. Like, what does it mean? And then why even take control of your money in the first place? Like, what potential outcomes are you hoping to bring to fruition by being here with me right now, listening to this podcast? What's your number one motivation? What gives you the most joy in life? What gives you the most purpose in life? Do you feel that you're able to fully pursue your joy and purpose? If any, what are your greatest obstacles? I think that's one of the best things I ever did in my entire life. During COVID, when we couldn't get out and do anything, couldn't see friends, I listened to a podcast that talked about how you could bring a vacation state of mind to your present day lifestyle, something I still think of each day. And asking yourself, like, creating a list of what gives you the most joy in life, and how can you bring more of that into your daily life? Or what are things that you do on vacation that bring you the most joy that you don't even think about doing when you're at home? It could be as simple as going for like a walk, right? I didn't go for walks before COVID. I just like went to the gym. And then that question got posed upon me. And now I started in 2020, like, going for daily walks, and I still do it now, 4 years later. So what are things that bring you the most joy that you can implement more into your day-to-day life? Thinking about abundance, like, who else do you wish to positively impact and contribute to outside of yourself? Asking you questions of, like, if you could change one thing about your life, what would it be? How, when, and why? If money were no object, how would you really live? What types of people do you want to surround yourself with? Who looks up to you the most, and what type of impact and influence do you want to make on them? Where do you want to live? What kind of house or apartment? Are you land or city, urban or rural? If you could drop everything and move to one place, what would it be? What's keeping you from doing so? If there's a roadblock now, could you prepare now so you can do it in the future? Would living somewhere else bring out a healthier lifestyle for you? Do you want to travel? How much and where? How frequently? What does it look like? Where are you going? Are you doing domestic trips? Are you doing international trips? Do you want to work nights and weekends? Do you want to be home for dinner with your kids every night? What's your ideal work-life balance look like? What's your ideal income and why? Does your dream Does your ideal lifestyle require that income? So just continue to think about all these questions. A couple that I forgot to mention, when other people see you as their mentor, how would you hope you can influence the path they choose for themselves? How do you want to be remembered by those you care about most? That's a deep one, right? Think about writing your own eulogy today. Yeah, it sounds morbid, but it'll show you how you want to live and show up as a person every single day of your life. So you truly need to think about, what does your best life look like? All that you've known for the last 8 to 12 years of your life is studying, grinding, medicine, working 100-hour weeks. What type of person do you want to be outside of medicine? Who would you be if medicine was taken away from you? If you couldn't be a physician, something happened and you couldn't practice, what would you be? What kind of things would you be doing? What brings you the most joy? So when you have an idea of what that step two, like build your ideal life plan first outside of your career. Step three is transitioning to build your ideal lifestyle, the one that you just envisioned and wrote down above, using your new cash flows, your money in, your money out. So, that being said, there'll be a whole future episode on cash flows coming up in that series that I mentioned in the first 120 days of a client working with us. And I'll get something in the show notes below where you can either download our circulatory system training to help you understand your cash flows and inflows and outflows, where you are now and what they're going to look like when you're an attending, and how to build in your ideal lifestyle when you're an attending, including how much you're traveling, what types of things are you doing that'll bring you joy, are you going to buy a house, what does a mortgage look like, etc. Or I would encourage you, if you haven't already, download and begin using the Rocket Money app. I have no partnership or affiliation with Rocket Money. I just think it's an incredible tool to understand your cash flows. So with where you are right now with one of those two tools, you have to understand, like I said, I'm going to do a whole separate podcast on this entire, just solely on cash flows. So look out for that soon, but understand your current cash flows, where you are in training, right? What were your inflows every month? How much did you have coming in every single month after, like on your, pay stub net of everything? Were your outflows while you're in training? So how much were you spending as a family in training? And if you don't know that, you must understand your cash inflows and your outflows. And if you're not willing to go there with yourself, you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself why. What are you afraid of? You must, like any good business, you have to know your cash inflows and your cash outflows. And then you have, what like currently while in training, what did your free cash flows look like? Did you have 500 a month left over? Did you have 100? Were you living paycheck to paycheck? Were you in a deficit? Did you have a couple thousand a month left over? Like, how much did you have left over that you were currently putting towards your financial goals and priorities? What did you want your peace, like what was your peace of mind emergency fund? What did that look like while in training? Where do you want it to be ideally? And then what are your, something that goes a little overseen, right? What did your taxes, go pull up a pay stub, what did your taxes look like while you were in training? And then what are they going to look like when you're attending? Because you're going to get slapped in the face pretty hard if you're not like aware of what that's going to look like when you make the big jump. So after you know your current, like what it looked like while you're in training, do the same exact thing for your projected cash flows. So what you can do is look at your employment contract coming up and look at what they're going to be paying you, the gross number. You can Google like a take-home paycheck tax calculator, or you can go to calculator.net/take-home-pay-calculator.html. And that'll bring up a little tax calculator. It won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty close. And you can figure out like what the state tax is going to be, what the city tax is going to be, what your federal tax is going to look like. So then you'll know how much you have left over after taxes coming into your paycheck, or into your bank account after like retirement plan, benefits, etc. So what are your projected inflows when you transition to attending? This is crucial, not just your gross, but after taxes. What are your projected outflows? So what is your new lifestyle going to cost you? If you're moving to a new city, you might have to feel it out for a few months, but you can use that circulatory cash flow system and plug in some of the numbers, your new anticipated rent or your new mortgage, or how much you want to be traveling every year, like 10,000 a year, or whatever it might be. So that ideal lifestyle that you built for yourself above, build it into your circulatory cash flow system. And then you can project your future outflows. It's not going to be perfect. You're probably going to have to feel it out for 3 to 6 months and update it as you go. And then you have to take a look and see, does the lifestyle that you created for yourself and that circulatory cash flow system, do you have free cash flows? Or did you like build too much of a new lifestyle where you're going to be break even as an attending, which obviously would not be good because you wouldn't be able to, be a lot of present life joy, but you'd sacrifice your future, right? Which I imagine many of you here right now, you're going to be good stewards of your money, so that won't be an issue. But after you built your ideal lifestyle, know exactly how much you want to spend in your day-to-day life for things that bring you joy, the bills, everything. What is how much money are you going to have left over? What are your free cash flows in the future? And then based on your outflows as an attending, your peace of mind emergency fund should be roughly multiply that by 6 and or 12. We typically recommend, and a lot of the first year for a first year attending is building your peace of mind emergency fund. We recommend having 6 to 12 months of expenses in an emergency fund, likely a high yield savings account at all times. So take your cash outflows, projected cash outflows, multiply by 6 or 12, and then you'll know what your peace of mind cash position should likely be at all times. I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to have 6 to 12 months. That's just like a general rule that we like to follow. I'm not huge on rules, but I'd say if anything, understand what your free cash flows are going to be the second your first paycheck hits your bank account as an attending, because then you'll know how much you have left over. And if your number one priority is just building your savings, then you know that you can move a majority of that to your savings, right? So understand where you're at. Also understand how taxes are going to play a role. The fourth and final step is just have an action plan for your free cash flows based on your top priorities. So basically just have a plan, right? When your first paycheck hits, what is going where? When the next paycheck hits, what is going where? When the following paycheck hits, what is going where? Obviously, the circulatory cash flow system and that Rocket Money will kind of show you like what the bills are going to be, the things that are going to be recurring, groceries, going out to dinner, those will be like variable, right? But when your first paycheck hits, what's the plan? What are your top priorities? And you can look up the podcast about the 7-part meaningful goal setting exercise. It was released, I believe, the middle of June. So you can find that, and that'll help you set your goals and priorities. So go listen to that if you haven't already. But identify your top goals and priorities, put them in chronological order, and decide how much money needs to go to each. So if you're feeling that retirement is extremely important, then budget in maxing out your 403B plan. If you want to do backdoor Roth IRA planning, factor in 7,000 a year for that. If you want to build your emergency fund to 100,000, when do you want to have 100,000 by, and how long do you want to wait to have it get there, and then build a custom plan? Do you want your student loans paid off in 5 years? How much needs to go every single month to your loan? So what you can see, and I would, if you want to figure out, like if you feel confident as an investor and like, okay, in 10 years, if I want to send my kids to college, here's how much I need to save today. You probably could ask ChatGPT and it might be able to solve that for you. So you can use tools like ChatGPT to help you figure out like, hey, if I want to get an 8% return to buy my dream house in 10 years, how much money do I need to save today if I want to put 20% down of a sticker price of $1 million? So how much do I need to save earning 8% for the next 10 years to have 200,000 sitting in a brokerage account to put a down payment down on my dream house? So basically figure out what your top goals and priorities are. And then the second your first paycheck hits your account, you will know exactly how much. So let's say it's 10,000 a month. And just for sake of simplicity, let's say you discover that to pay your loans off in 10 years, you got to start paying 3,000 a month. To retire on time, you have to start doing another 3,000 a month. And then the remaining 4,000 left over, you do 2,000 into your savings to begin building that. And then you do another 2,000 into some type of other investment vehicle, real estate brokerage, whatever it might be, to hit goals in the next 10 to 15 years. So that's just a simple example, but when you know what your free cash flows are, you know what your goals are, and you know what it's going to, like how much money it's going to cost you every month to get there, then you can have a game plan every single month. And once again, if you're not super comfortable with it, investing, and you don't trust yourself with it, just identify your top goals and priorities. And there's nothing wrong with your first year as an attending if you just choose to like max out your 403B, make a huge dent in your student loans, and build your savings to the place you want it to be. There is nothing wrong with that. And as always, I know I brought it up often. If you want to go through all this with me, and actually like I can like give you ideas of like a, and direct feedback for your unique situation, we have free financial wellness diagnostics available on iamwealth.com. There's no obligation to work with us. That's just something we do for free and something I want to do to say thank you for being here and listening to me right now. So, with that being said, what is one thing you can take action on in the next 24 hours? Is it creating the time and space for you and or your loved ones to work on all this? Is it building your ideal life plan first and thinking about what do you want your most meaningful life, a life well lived, to look like? What does that look like to you before you go down and just bury your head in your work for 10 years and all of a sudden you wake up and you're 42 and you're like, holy crap, I've been just working and grinding for 20 years and I haven't done any of the things that are on my bucket list, my life well lived list, my joy list, right? Don't fall prey to that. That is a path to burnout. Is it building your ideal lifestyle, using your money in, money out? So knowing exactly what you're going to be spending or as well as you can in your first year as an attending. And like I said, it takes time. And then knowing your free cash flows so you have targets to aim for. Or is it just having an action plan? Maybe you already know how to do all this. So just having an action plan for your free cash flows based on your top goals and priorities. And I would say don't follow cookie cutter solutions. Don't do what your physician best friend is doing. They have different goals than you as a human being. You need to put your goals and priorities in an order that feels good to you. Some physicians want to live like a resident and pay off their loans in 2 years and not travel and not live a life because that's what's going to help them sleep well at night. But that might not vibe well with you, right? Only a certain percentage. So you have to put your goals and priorities for yourself and then have an action plan that feels good to you and your family. There is no right or wrong answer here. It's just following these 4 steps, having awareness, and then having some type of action plan for you and your future. So I wish you success to everybody transitioning this summer. Seriously, I know there's so much joy in, and I've never gone through med school. I've never gone through training, right? I've just lived vicariously through clients. And my founder of our company, Jeff's wife, Michaela, hi Michaela, who's in med school currently, but I know the grind is so intense and I know there's no money education. So do your best to just take care of yourself during this transitionary time. Go on vacation. If you're feeling like a little strapped on money in July and you're like, oh, should I take the trip or should I not? If you can make the trip work, take the trip. Do the things that bring you joy. You will be able to play catch up soon. I've seen it time and time again. It just requires intentionality and having a plan to follow. So I wish all of you success. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And once again, please pay it forward to other physicians that might be making the overwhelming and exciting transition to attending. And I wish you success. And if this works for you, I would love to hear some awesome feedback stories. So I hope you have a wonderful day and look out for that onboarding series coming up very soon.